Billionaire investor Mark Cuban utterly destroyed MAGA Republican Trump supporter Vivek Ramaswamy in a debate about the 2024 election that Vivek seemed to propose, certainly dragged his feet on, and then abruptly ended. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. Vivek Ramaswamy is a MAGA Republican Trump supporter. He technically ran against Trump in the 2023 Republican primary, but he went out of his way to avoid attacking Trump and criticizing Trump in any meaningful way, and quickly dropped out to endorse and support Trump. He's also a tech bro, multimillionaire debate bro, and he loves to have conversations and spar with people on social media and in interviews. I will say, before we jump into this, an iconic, an exquisite viral exchange between Vivek and somebody in a debate is a conversation or a brief exchange that he had with our buddy Luke Beasley, in which Beasley brought up to Vivek that Donald Trump called for the termination of the Constitution, and Vivek denied it, and Luke brought the receipts, and it went about as well as you expected. It was a total smackdown of Vivek by Luke. Great stuff. So let's get into this conversation here. Mark Cuban is a billionaire investor. He has been an outspoken critic of Donald Trump, and he recently sat down for an interview with Vivek on Vivek's channel. And even though the conversation was supposed to be about politics, it basically didn't happen until the last 10 or 15 minutes of the hour and 10 minute long conversation. So we're going to play some of these clips and unpack it together.
And there was no leadership.
You have a few minutes. You want to change the channel? We didn't actually even get to politics, but we got to do at least a little bit. All right.
Sure.
Okay, so there you go. Just set it up. Okay, that they talked about a bunch of other things, business, DEI initiatives, things like that. And then Vivek was like, okay, well, let's for the last 10 minutes or so, let's talk about the 2024 election and politics in general. So with that in mind, we'll get into more of the meat of the conversation.
That's fine. No, I understand.
So now you get a candidate, and here's the thing that most people don't realize, who's actually not an ideologue, certainly on historical Republican terms at all. Not an ideologue at all in any sense, actually, who on abortion is against a federal ban on abortion, is a little bit more pragmatic, you could say, is in certain other issues. On gun control is softer than some Second Amendment advocates, even myself in many cases, would advocate for. You have a foreign policy that is against fighting pointless foreign wars or intervention, a Republican who's publicly against that old Iraq war. And yet now the criticism of that candidate is that, he's not principled enough, right? So from the Democrats.
Well, yeah, but let's talk about that. No. You're mixing the principle that people are talking about. It's ethics. The man told Mike Pence not to certify the election. The man called the Secretary of State, or was it governor? I forget, and asked for 11,072 votes. The man has stolen from more hardworking Americans.
You were against Trump in 2016, though. You were against Trump in 2016.
Right, but he was unethical then, and he's still unethical.
And in 20, right.
That's right, but that's the whole point. I actually started off supporting Donald, and then I got to know him better.
When did you support him?
Like 2015, I was like, he's great. He's he's not a typical Stepford candidate. I thought that was a positive.
I would think that's a positive, right? A business guy who's pretty practical.
But then I got to know
not
him.
Ideological.
A big part of that is I didn't think he had a chance, and so I just wanted to kind of screw things up in traditional politics that I'm not a fan of.
Okay,
but the bigger
supportive. Okay, that's kind of funny.
Right. But the bigger point is Trump University, Trump Soho, stole $4 million from a friend of mine that had sued to get it back. Mike Pence, 40 out of 44 people.
Just take a look at the 40.
So fascinating exchange right there. Number one, let's just get a couple things out of the way. Vivek Ramaswamy is a smart guy, and he's a very good debater. But sometimes it doesn't matter how good of a debater you are, how smart you are. Sometimes the facts are just so inconvenient, it doesn't really lend itself well to a winning position. Like flat Earth, right? You can be the best debater in the world, but the best debater in the world arguing in favor of flat Earth just has a seriously uphill battle. It's kind of the same thing here for Vivek Ramaswamy, trying to make the case that Donald Trump is a principled and ethical actor in American politics, which is why, I don't know if you noticed, he didn't even address anything that Mark said. He was like, well, you didn't support Trump from the beginning. as if that in any way undermines or refutes the points that Mark Cuban is making. It doesn't matter. Even if Mark Cuban entered this entire conversation saying, yeah, from day one, since he marched down that escalator, I hated Donald Trump. It doesn't change the fact that Donald Trump is unethical and unprincipled. As a matter of fact, he could just cite that. Yeah, I'm well aware of Donald Trump. I was well aware of his public comments prior to running for president, his, litigious history, the accusations and lawsuits against him. I just knew he was an unprincipled, unethical actor. So I had ample reason to dislike him from the very beginning. But Mark Cuban's like, actually, no, I went in kind of agnostic on Trump and then supporting Trump initially. And then quickly, once I learned more about who Donald Trump was, then I turned against him. But it's true. The things that Mark Cuban just talked about, you referenced it there in the end, 40 out of 44. What he's talking about is 40 out of 44 of Donald Trump's cabinet and senior staff when Trump was president are not endorsing him. That's staggering. Even if it was half that number, even if it was 22 out of 44, that's staggering that a guy is eligible to be president again. He's running for president right now. And the people who knew him best politically, who worked with him in the Trump administration much more closely than Vivek Ramaswamy, who had no relationship with Trump at the time and wasn't a member of the Trump administration, they know better. They're the experts. And they're saying, hey, Vivek, hey, Mark, I know Trump better than you. And I'm not endorsing him because I worked with him for him. And he's a bad president, right? That's an informed opinion, certainly more informed than anything coming out of Vivek or even Mark. And Mark's appealing to that. He's actually doing the smart thing, saying, hey, listen, the people who know Trump best politically in this particular environment as president of the United States are saying the guy sucks, right? Then there's the litany of frauds that he's committed, perpetrated against other Americans, the lawsuits, the losses that he's taken, Trump University, the scandals, the fact that, he recently was found liable for sexual abuse, raping a woman, and had to pay her not only for that, but also for defamation. What he's saying is Trump may be a blank slate for Republicans to use as a vector to get the policy outcomes they want, which, by the way, I would argue that almost is worse, right? In the sense that Trump has no principled positions. He has no real serious thought about politics. He just wants power. And that's the sort of nefarious Faustian bargain that Republicans have entered into with him. But on top of all that, he's not ethical. And so Vivek really doesn't have any answers for that. And I think it's really important that, Mark Cuban brings that up. Another clip.
Crime and economy.
I get that. But you know what? The one certainty about the office of the president of the United States is the complete uncertainty, that you have no idea what comes next. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And so in my mind, and I think a lot of people's minds that oppose Donald Trump, is that you want somebody there that is educated on the world, but more importantly, just is ethical, right? So that they make ethical decisions. You want somebody when there is no precedent, it's never happened before. You want somebody that has hired not people who are most loyal, like Tony Soprano might have done, but hired the very best people. And those people want to stay and work for them, not that they're loyal. You want somebody whose first inclination is not to do what's in their own best personal interest.
So
right?
Can I just say,
you can't deny that's Donald Trump.
Again, what a great, compelling argument that there's so many uncertainties and unknowns when you're the most powerful person on earth with the hardest job on earth, commanding the world's only superpower. So in unprecedented times, you should probably defer to the moral compass of a person who is reliably ethical, reliably principled. And by the way, as a reminder, when there was precedent, 250 years worth of precedent, which is the peaceful transfer of power, Donald Trump was the first sitting president to break with that, which goes back to the first clip. Mark Cuban's like, he tried to get Mike Pence to overthrow a free and fair election. Vivek Ramaswamy and Republicans would be apoplectic. They would be demanding secession if a Democratic president or a Democratic candidate did such a thing. Imagine in 2016, we had an outgoing Democratic president, Barack Obama, an outgoing Democratic vice president, Joe Biden, the current president of the United States. He was the vice president. He was in Mike Pence's position on January 6, 2017. Imagine a scenario where Hillary Clinton's like, no, I don't concede the election. No, I don't accept the results. I'm going to try to sue my way into the White House. If that doesn't work, I'm going to conspire with Vice President Biden and President Barack Obama to just throw out the Trump votes and certify Hillary Clinton as the winner. Imagine how Vivek Ramaswamy and Republicans would react to that. They'd be apoplectic. They would accept no excuses for it. It doesn't matter that it's an untested legal theory. It doesn't matter that you genuinely believe the election is stolen. Donald Trump won. That's the end of it. But because it's Trump and because it's a Republican and because they're an authoritarian cult of unprincipled, hypocritical losers, they bend the rules for Trump. And Mark Cuban's like, that's ridiculous. He also references the phone call that Trump made to Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, for 11,780 votes. I need one more. Guys, it's all I need, one more than the other guy. If he really believed that there was serious voter fraud, why would he only ask them to stop and just give him one more? Find me one more than the other guy. Wouldn't you say something like, I believe that there are missing votes. I need you to find all the missing votes. No, because at the end of the day, he's outcome oriented. Trump wanted to win Georgia, had no evidence that Georgia was stolen, and just demanded that these Republicans be loyal to him and fabricate votes, just give him one more needed to flip the state. Pretty ridiculous and unprincipled stuff from Donald Trump. Another clip.
No, but that's not the issue. Yeah, but you're talking about policies.
The heart of this.
Look,
I am concerned about policies. I'm deeply concerned. I have to admit.
No, I'm not unconcerned. I'm not unconcerned about policies, right? But it's just like a CEO of a company. Would you hire somebody that has a long history of stealing from people, of being unethical? You would not, and you know it.
Is Donald Trump a perfect person?
He's right. And then, of course, Vivek's like, well, listen, Donald Trump's not perfect, which is the understatement of the century. And then after all that, friends, after Mark Cuban just lays a masterclass performance out from a guy who, by the way, is not a professional debater and is not a political historian, political commentator. He's a billionaire investor who certainly has interest in politics, but he's going up against Vivek, who on paper should be winning if in terms of nothing else, the fact that Vivek is in politics professionally, both in commentary, debate, and as a candidate. And it goes so badly that this happens.
He used the whole government's whole theory is he should have been using the campaign money. He used personal money for it. So my point is, in a lot of these cases, they were going to get him either way, right?
Okay, so first of all, Hillary Clinton did something.
And I just worry a lot of this has created distortion. My guy here is giving us like signs. We got to. No, I'm going to this magazine interview. This is.
So there you go. Vivek seemed to propose the debate. It was on Vivek's channel. He certainly dragged his feet, right? Because he begins the debate saying, hey, this is about politics. Waits until 50 minutes to 60 minutes in, says, hey, let's talk politics, probably because he knew this is exactly how it would go. Donald Trump puts very intelligent people in an awkward position, or rather, very intelligent people put themselves in an awkward position for Trump because they go to defend a guy who is basically indefensible. Donald Trump is stupid. Donald Trump was a terrible president with a terrible record. And even his accomplishments, if you take the value judgments out of them, just list the things that he did, very few and far between. $2 trillion tax cut for the rich. That's basically it. The First Step Act, that was good. Whereas President Biden and the Democrats have a much more robust record on which to work. Donald Trump is unprincipled. He's unethical. He has all the deficits against him, which is very hard to defend, even if you're an intelligent person. And I don't blame Vivek for wanting to avoid that particular conversation for as long as possible. But Mark Cuban cleaned house. Great performance by him. Let me know what you think in the comments.